Hey everybody, Johnny K here with Master Photography Now, and today we're going to be critiquing one of your pictures. So this photographer is Brittany Aguilar, and she sent in these images of both some beautiful landscapes and some portraits. So we're going to look at those together, but before we do, please like and subscribe and share this channel so we can grow and do more and more of these videos. Right now I'm doing about one per week, but I'd love to do 3. So let's get those subscriber counts up to over 1,000, and we'll just keep growing from there. So we'll go ahead and click our develop icon, and then we can go into all the controls and see the image up close by zooming in. Looks sharp, clear, bunch of fog in the foreground, and all these beautiful logs all stacked up, ready for milling to build somebody's house. And these amazing clouds with snow and all the evergreen trees in the background. So as far as critiquing the image, it looks really good. There isn't a whole lot that I think I would do. It looks like we've crushed our blacks here, so we have no detail. I don't know if there's much we can do about that with this image. If I take the shadows all the way up, you'll see that there's still no detail here, and even if you do the same with the blacks, there's still no detail here. Sometimes it is okay to crush the blacks, but in an image like this that's very Ansel Adamish, you want to definitely try and keep as much detail from highlight to shadow as you can. Certain cameras are more limited in what they can do in this regard. Right now, Sony and Nikon are at the top of the heap for anything you can afford that will record as much information from highlight to shadow. It's called dynamic range. And the camera I use is a Nikon D850, and it has over 14 stops of range between shadow to highlight. And so that's really, really good. And some of the very best Sonys are like that as well. And a couple medium format cameras that you can buy for double, triple, quadruple the price. But for just like a regular Canon or other cameras, they don't have a huge amount of detail. They usually have 2 or 3 stops less dynamic range than the best Nikon and Sony. So here, I know this was taken with a Canon, so there just isn't as much detail in the shadows and the highlights, like the cloud and the shadows on the logs. So those are going to be black and white. Now, is that bad? No. But if you had detail in all of it, it would be better. So you want to expose for the highlights and then develop for the shadows. And that's what Ansel Adams did using chemistry and photo process. But we can still do that today. Not quite the same. You want to expose as light as you can while still keeping detail in the highlights. And then in post-processing, you can go and raise the shadows out, or you can do multiple exposures and then blend them together. It's called the high dynamic range shot. But assuming you're using one photo, you expose for the highlights, then develop and raise the shadows. So that's what we're going to do here. We could probably drop the exposure a little bit, get a more detail in the clouds, and then drop the highlights just a little, give the appearance of a little more detail. And then we raise the shadows like this, and then we can actually increase some texture and probably some clarity. You don't want to overdo the clarity because then it starts looking really fake, even though it can look really cool. It just starts looking really fake. So I prefer just a little bit of clarity like that. So if you look at this in comparison with, let's go down here to see our history. We're going to look at the way she submitted it here. And then if you go up, all over the map here, and you click what we did to it, then it just kind of gives it a finer tonality. Last thing that I like to do sometimes, and actually it's a lot, but what I like to do is add just a little tiny bit of a post-crop vignette just to keep you in the frame. So if you do this, you can make the edges just slightly. Let's go too dark first, okay? That's too much, right? But let's just add a little bit, okay? And then if we go back here to the original, you can see, nice picture, real contrasty, and then I'm all over here. And then just with the additions to get more detail and keep you in the picture, it's beautiful. So let's look at the next one. Okay, so we have a nice portrait of people, great moment good composition. I'm not a huge fan of a bunch of white sky, so if you can, I would say compose your image in front of more of the trees maybe, or if you could get detail in a bunch of cool puffy clouds, that's great. I don't love the white sky, but it is what it is here. For some reason, this one, even though we have a good moment and it's cute, it is out of focus. So I generally don't show clients pictures like this that are out of focus. You can see that it's focused almost like right here, but here it's out of focus. So I personally wouldn't show this image to a client, even though it is a cool moment. Now I understand that if that's the only moment you got like that, and you know you didn't capture more that would be comparable, you know, you could go in Photoshop and select this area and do a sharpening in this area, and it might clean it up a little bit, but it's not going to be as good as if you had photographed it that way. So I would say make sure you, when you're shooting a series of images, you know, just say something stupid to make them laugh and shoot a whole bunch of them, refocusing or making sure you've nailed that focus before you continue on to the next shot. So let's look at the next one here. This is very cool. It almost looks like a different day, but this is I don't know the mountain. I didn't ask. But this is one of those images. I really like it. The only thing I would say is there's just too much clarity. So that clarity that we were talking about earlier, we'll go to the develop here. And let's see, where are we? Right here. I'll just lower that clarity back down. Now I'm just doing this on a JPEG that she gave me. But I think that's going to feel a little more natural. It's okay if you want to have it look surreal, but this particular image, I just feel like it was overdone. Maybe the saturation is a little bit overdone as well. A lot of times I like that, but here it just feels a little too fake for me. One more thing is, it looks like we have some dust spots up here. So you can grab this tool at the top of your develop tab, and you can click and get rid of dust. And so that actually worked really well. I didn't have to adjust it at all. And lastly, let's go and just add a little bit of vignette to keep you in the middle of the picture. Just a little bit. Don't always have to do it, but the top left of the screen up here looks a little bright to me, so it's like pulling us up out past the sun. So let's just drop the edges a little bit. That's nice. And then you can actually go up to the very top, and we're going to grab this brush tool. Okay. And we can also lower some of the highlights up in here. So if I do this, right, it's way too much. So we'll just use our slider, bring that back to something acceptable. And we can even lower the shadows a little bit. Okay, good. So there we go. And we'll just look at this original. So it just looks a bit overdone. And then if we go back to our adjustments, and it just kind of brings it back to something a little more believable. And actually, you could probably even take out a little bit of blue. That might be too much. There we go. And, you know, which is another good idea here. You can, you know, add more green if you like. You can add more yellow. You just don't want to go too heavy on that blue sky, because then it just screams fake at you. All right, let's look at the next one. So we have a nice family photo here. Looks like there's a bear. They somehow got a bear in this photo. Very nice. Flattering poses for everybody. Happy mom. Dad is a little stoic. Who's he looking at? He's looking at her. Okay. He's like, you're busted. If you want candy or ice cream, you better behave for the rest of this photo shoot. All right. So looks pretty good. Compositionally, it's pretty cool. I want to darken the sky a bit here, and I kind of wish we didn't have this dead tree. It'd be nice to have something that wasn't dead in a family picture. So let's go ahead and just kind of tone down that whole area. We're going to pick a brush. All right, and we're going to drop the highlights and the exposure, and we'll make it blue too, just so it looks like blue sky. We'll just kind of paint this area in here to keep you down on your beautiful family. Okay, there we go. And now I'm going to clean this up. Use the healing brush tool, and you can make the brush bigger by using the parentheses or smaller. We'll just go ahead and do that and kind of get rid of some of this junk. I think there was one other spot here I noticed. Where is it? Maybe right in here. Just kind of clean it up a little bit so it doesn't look dirty. Okay, and then if we're looking at this part here, I just feel like maybe Mom's face is a little dark. So we have our brush, and we're going to paint the face here, including the hair. Okay, we'll warm it up. It's way too blue. All right. And we're going to drop that exposure back down so it's not too bright. We want it to look real. Okay, get out of the brush and zoom out, and there you go. So we have a nice image where everybody looks good, and maybe the color's a little red. You can go the opposite, just add a little bit of green. There we go, and we'll just warm it up slightly, and maybe drop our vibrance just a little bit. There we go. All right, so let's go back to the original, and we're gonna look at the way it was submitted, and then with our little tweaks, that looks really nice. Good job, Brittany. Okay, let's go to her last one here, or at least I think it's her last one. Very cool, very romantic, in front of the logs again with the mountain in the background. I wonder if that's Shasta. Let's see. They have a little bit of grain there. Doesn't bother me. You can get rid of that if you want by going down to the sharpening tab and noise reduction. You can just arbitrarily click a noise reduction, but keep your detail. That gets rid of some of that noise. And then compositionally, it feels a little heavy over here on all the white. It's kind of pulling us up out of the image over here. So we can darken this, but also we have our subject dead smack in the middle here, or pretty close, which is okay. But if you want to kind of follow that compositional rule of thirds by putting people on the thirds, then maybe we can, let's see if we can work with that a little bit. Let's just put them on this third line and then move this up a little bit. Let's do something like that just to see. So that, to me, now we have a leading line that comes into our subject on the third, and you've got this, and you're looking around and around and around. You're staying in the picture substantially more, and then we're going to add our little vignetting trick, our post-crop vignette, because we just cropped it. So we're going to vignette it post the crop. We're going to keep you more in here. Okay, so the edges were just darkened, and I'm actually going to make them a little bit more of the focus. So we're going to grab a brush here, okay, and we're going to raise the shadows and the exposure just a little bit on them. So let's lighten them in here, maybe her jacket and his hand in his pocket and his face. It's blue for some reason. Let's go back to neutral color. Okay, and that looks good to me. So let's go back and look at the original. So here's the way it was submitted. Feels a little off balance maybe, and now we've balanced it and created a focus here. Thanks, Brittany, for submitting your pictures. And if you'd like to submit your pictures, please send them to john@kemmerling.com, and I will critique them right here on the site. Also, please remember to subscribe to Master Photography Now and hit that bell notification icon so you'll be notified every time we have a new video. Please put a comment below in the video letting me know what you want to hear about. What do you want to learn about? Equipment, photography how-tos, how to price your pictures, how to make money, anything you want with photography, art in general. Just let me know. If I can, I will do it, and we will learn together. Thanks again. This is Johnny K from Master Photography Now. See you next time.